Alright, we're doing another one of these videos. It's been a while. It's actually been over a month since I have recorded anything. And the reason being is because for my 30th birthday, I finally did my top 30 favorite movies, which is something I've wanted to do since starting my channel. And I've always wanted to do it for my 30th birthday. But, very early on in that recording session, this polyps that I've had in my nose for a couple years now, it ruptured and started spraying blood everywhere. So I powered through that recording and did all the editing and stuff and got that video uploaded, when I wanted to. I was not able to re-record or re-edit anything because of my issues with my health, and I made the executive decision that I would not record anything again until my sinuses get back under control. It's been the absolute worst year for it. My sinuses have always been bad. I've always been nasally because of them. Like I said, I've had this polyps for years and years. This is by far the worst it's ever been. I have had more nosebleeds in the past 2 months than I have had in my entire rest of my lifetime combined. But I wanted to finish out this series. The Honest Look at an Honest Look, and we're going to do the June-iper videos today. It may be an honest look at Bumblebee. I really want to do an honest look at Bumblebee and also an honest look at Crow. That might have to... Man, I want this to be the last one, but there's still more. Once we get into the honest look at Kirby stuff, which I could hypothetically do in its own video, we start getting into my current setup with this channel. And so there's not going to be as many interesting insights I can offer you. They're just not going to be as interesting videos to make. They're not going to be as interesting videos to watch. And so this might be the last one, but I might do... We'll see how I feel by the time we're done with the June-iper stuff, whether I'll go ahead and record an honest look at Bumblebee and an honest look at Crow today and just re-upload that, or just upload that part separately, or if I'll do it all in one video, or if I'll do it in 2 separate videos and also do an honest look at Kirby in a separate video. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I've been having health issues the past few months. It's been trouble getting to and from work every day and dealing with everything. But without further ado, an honest look at June-iper. Will you just shut up and something?
Usually when I make one of these honest looks, my mind is already made up.
I'm also going to, lower the audio. Probably in post, I do still want to hear it, but in post, I will probably lower the volume for the video because I got copyright flagged on the other parts for BS reasons. The original videos that I'm reacting to don't have copyright claims, but my reaction to my own videos do. It makes no sense. Anyway.
Before I start scripting, and I use what we see and hear in the show to back my arguments in a way that I hope doesn't poison the well. This is impossible with June-iper. The consistency is just too non-existent, and this inconsistency was born from audience input. Jean's first couple appearances...
I don't remember where exactly I'm going with this video. I do remember that I decided to do an honest look at Team June-iper to fill out the time between volumes 5 and 6 pretty early on during volume 5. And I remember that scripting out this video was one of the hardest ones I've had to do because I didn't really know what to make of Jean, and I was starting to experiment with this format, really, to use an honest look to actually figure out what I think about the character instead of having an opinion already and then just kind of cherry picking evidence to support my arguments the way that I did with Blake. Like with Blake and most of Team RWBY, like I really had the thesis statement first and then kind of built the analysis around that thesis statement. With Jean in particular, and kind of with June-iper as a whole, I came at it from the other angle, where I had all this evidence, all this footage to work with that I had seen over and over again through editing the other videos on my channel, and then try to come up with the conclusion afterwards, which I think is just an overall healthier way to make content that has led to me being much happier with my content.
Left a foul taste in even the most adamant of Rooster Teeth fanboys that major changes were made to Jean's character in latter volumes, and those changes still haunt the writing to this day. Blame falls squarely on Monty on this one. Yes, Jean was pretty much supposed to be Miles' self-insert. Yes, Team June-iper was supposed to be Miles' team, the same way that Team RWBY was Monty's, but the first two volumes are so inconsistent in every regard that it no longer matters what they do. The creators are going to do something that contradicts what Monty did. Why is this? Well, my speculation is that, and there's no easy way to say this, Monty didn't care about the story or characters. Miles fell in.
Yeah, that's kind of apparent with the writing quality. This is one of those instances where we'll never know. And this is something that I've dealt with, for decades at this point with my life because of the way my family is. But we'll never know the truth because the only people who know the truth have a vested interest in making themselves look better. We don't actually know how much Miles writes for Jean. He says he never writes for Jean. He was saying that with, I think it was volume 6. So that information is just kind of outdated for this video. But we don't know if that's true. We can only take his and Carrie's word for it. But the problem with just taking their word for it is that they have a vested interest in making us think that Jean isn't a self-insert. That's why this is something that I've kind of come to grips with as I've become a published author myself. You shouldn't psychoanalyze people based on what they write. Because, at least for me, I don't want to write about myself. None of the characters in my books are really anything like me. Like, the closest one is maybe Oliver, but even that's like, I still have both my parents. Oliver doesn't. I was born in the 90s. Oliver was born in the early 2000s. I never got a girl's number in high school. Oliver apparently does. So Oliver's apparently a lot cooler than I am, and he's a dork. But that's kind of the fantasy of it. That's the escapism that comes with creating something greater than yourself, or something that you see as greater than yourself, even if people don't agree with that. But yeah, I want to give Miles and Carrie the benefit of the doubt that it's the same with RWBY. Like, they don't actually write about themselves in the show. They write about the subjects that are more interested in them as characters than them as mouthpieces. Which, again, is a good thing.
In love with creating the world and went full George Lucas. Carrie has been feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders and has been playing it safe. But throughout the first 2 volumes, and indeed seasons 8 through 10 of RWBY, I never got the impression that Monty cared about anything other than the action.
And that's why I make the assumption that I do.
Show how all this haunts Jean's characterization. He was first introduced.
I make the assumption of Monty not caring about the characters because this wasn't just a problem with RWBY. This was a problem with everything Monty worked on.
as a literal gag character, a bit of goofy comic relief, and the male lead. He's Ruby's first real friend at Beacon. They're both well-meaning, nice, and have daunting legacies to live up to and might not be ready to fulfill their destinies. In the Emerald Forest, Sean's role becomes clear. In these scenes, he's the audience surrogate. He's the one who doesn't know all this stuff about aura and semblance, but like too many other things, it's done in half measures. Let's take 2 scenes of semblance being explained and hopefully you'll see how things went wrong.
Clips from the actual show.
How did you...
Associated with a wielder's semblance is completely unique.
You're not one to back down from a challenge, Blake.
That's a lot more than 2 scenes,
Even
media.
that semblance. I was born with the ability to leave behind a shadow of myself. An empty copy that takes the hit while I run away.
Some say your personality and character can define your semblance, while some claim that it's the other way around. Of course, there are still many who don't see a connection at all.
Even with him being out of his league, Sean does fairly well against the Death Star.
Ghost frame
Team June-iper
earlier.
shows more actual teamwork and coordination than Team Ruby. In fact, the biggest problem with this fight is that it leaves one important question hanging in the air. Why does everyone have to go to the academies? And considering Yang mops the floor with a bunch of bandits, Blake and Sun were able to take on the biggest grim this dude has ever seen.
I fucking
Weiss
hate
took
that
down
line.
A bunch of lancers that
Yes.
several ships and a pro huntsman by herself, and Team Ranger takes on a decades-old city-busting Nuklavi all shortly after their first year. It's a question that'll never be answered.
I want to say... I'm just noticing the audio quality. I want to say I was still using a headset mic for this. I know... When did this come out? June of 2018. Yeah, I was still using the headset mic. It was August of 2018 that I got the Blue Yeti that I've used ever since. Yeah. So we'll see that transition, and then we'll see a little bit of back and forth me not changing the settings on Audacity and it messing up the recording. We'll see that with the Bumblebee video.
Apparently Oscar is already on par with Crow and he's only trained for a month. After, in my opinion, earning his position as June-iper's leader, we have the bully arc. I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote this 4-week stretch of episodes, but I hope Miles still loses sleep over this. What possessed Monty and Miles?
Again, a little mean-spirited, but I mean, I still lose sleep over the stupid things that I wrote back in 2018.
To do this. I'm sorry, but even if this was the best executed bully arc in existence, it would still suck more dicks than Pui Pui Prisoner at a German bratwurst roast party at Elton John's house. Sorry for that visual.
That was a good joke, terrible delivery. Also, do people still know who Pui Pui Prisoner is? It's a character from One Punch Man. I must have been watching One Punch Man at this time. Because, man, I haven't thought about that show in a while.
Bully arcs are terrible on principle, and Jean's managed to be a low-tier example. We find out some stuff about him, but as pointed out by some people in the fandom, he's never suffered any consequences. The closest thing to consequences is that he gets beat up by Cardin. But that was already happening before we found out about the fake transcripts, and it's not like being unprepared is what landed him in trouble, unless Velvet also faked her transcripts. Jean's actions, motivations, and backstory come from 3 different characters. If he had any 2 pieces of contradictory dialogue, it would be bad, but 3? He doesn't want to be the damsel in distress, but then he acts lazy. He gets offered help, but passes it up because of bravado. Yet this whole bravado angle is completely dropped by the next volume. You can make the argument that all of this was him doing what he thought was cool, but that ship sailed when he became the victim of bullying. Jean in this arc is a perpetual victim, woe is me type character.
Yeah, he is kind of insufferable like that.
Instead of just plain bad. Though I would be remiss not to admit that the lessons he learns, even though it's a lesson he learned without consequence, is a good one. And all of this is facilitated by Ruby, who's supposed to be the main character, and who also became leader despite being relatively inexperienced and over her head, and This is why I ship these two so hard. Then Jean is reduced to a gag
Still
character.
do. I
Kids,
still ship them.
there's a reason why magicians never reveal their secrets. Monty coming right out and saying that the reason why Jean got wasted right off the bat during the food fight was because animating 8 characters in a fight is too hard goes a long way in describing what went wrong in fights since then. Jean gets a lot of emotional screen time.
Yeah, that was something he was saying. I don't actually know if it was Monty that said it, because I feel like I first heard that in regards to Volume 3. Because in all 3 team fights in Volume 3, there's one character that doesn't do anything. Like in the Ruby versus Auburn fight, Ruby's only contribution is that she shoots at a dude once. And then she uses herself as a springboard for Yang. But that's after Reese gets taken out by Blake. Then in June-iper versus Bronze, Jean doesn't do much. And neither does Ren, actually. It's kind of all Nora in that fight. And then Sun versus Indigo, Sage gets taken out right away.
Time in Volume 2. Volume 2.
My hair does not look good today.
Volume of the whole show, and no one has any real progression, only deeper explorations. The writers still try to make him the everyman, but Miles botches it by over-projecting his own ego, or lack thereof. In layman's terms, Jean refuses...
Again, like... I'm trying... This is an amateur media mistake. And it's a mistake that I made up until very recently, which is the idea of trying to psychoanalyze a writer based on what they write.
...to go away. He has some good moments. The scenes with him and Ren are hilarious.
Where'd my hat go? I had my hat on earlier. I took it off for some reason.
Jean in a dress was pretty funny, but apparently killing a single Ursa, that's what counts as character progression? Despite decent turns as a comedic sidekick to the main cast, Volume 3 tried new ground, strategist, and it fails. An argument that Jean is just a terrible strategist, but I think it's more accurate to say that none of the writers know how to make a good strategist. So let's
the black frame there.
skip the
Also,
versus Bronze
music
scene,
change.
Since I already tore into that in Honest Look at the Vital Festival.
Low
Just a few
quality
episodes
image.
there, the writers finally found something worthwhile to do with him. He's still the same good-natured, goofy clown from Volume 2, but the focus is taken off of him and centered around Pyrrha, so I'll talk about all of that during her Honest Look. With that out of the way, I have to admit that Jean has since turned into a bit of a Mary freaking Sue, and I can't even properly blame the writers for this. The fans wanted so much from him, the writers did so many...
This was pre-Volume 6. Not that Jean did much in Volume 6. Or 7, or most of 8. Volume 9, Jean is one of the best parts of that volume.
Things to
and that's a volume I really
give
liked.
The character any kind of consistency, but turning into a grim, serious edgelord wanting revenge for Pyrrha and grumbly disapproving of Crow and Osmond is just about the worst thing they could have done.
No, I've completely done a 180 on that.
Shows where the writers are at. Listening to the rabid fanboys, the vocal minority is just about the worst thing you can possibly do when trying to craft a story. Instead of doing what they want with Jean, they did what people wanted them to do with Jean. They made him more of a main character. They made him the...
Again, this is the thing though. Appealing to your audience is not a bad thing. I've grown to hate the term grift when it comes to the creative space, but we don't know what their plan was for Jean. For all we know, they always planned to do this. And I've said before that, like, time plus talent equals quality. If you do not have the talent or the motivation, it doesn't matter how much time you put into a project or how much time you put into writing, it's gonna still suck. You see that a lot with video games more than any other medium, because you'll get things like Cyberpunk 2077, which had like a 10-year development cycle, millions and millions of dollars, but none of the people involved in making that game knew what the fuck they wanted that game to be until the 11th hour, and by then they had loaded it up with so many bells and whistles and bullshit that none of which contributed to the central gameplay loop, which was basically non-existent, and because of all that, the game completely flopped at launch and was basically unplayable for a very long time. Ruby is the Cyberpunk 2077 of anime web shows.
One with the vendetta against Cinder. They changed his weapon, they gave him a semblance that makes sure that the show will never have dramatic tension ever again, and they did all this in the name of fan service. And again,
Yeah, a little presumptuous. Man, they found a way to put those stakes back in. Again, this is coming right off of Volume 5, when the stakes and the tension were at their just absolute lowest. Like, by the end of Volume 5, Cardin Winchester seemed like a more intimidating villain than Adam or Cinder. That's how bad it was.
I can't put all the blame on the writers. Rooster Teeth has a very bad history with listening to the vocal minority, especially the people who give them a lot of money. But since Sean is voiced by one of the writers and the one most obviously guilty of its
It could just be that the vocal minority are on the same page as the Ruby writers. I don't know.
Listen to them. That's why they tried portraying Jean as a strategist. That's why when it failed, they made him the healer instead. That's why he tries to...
Hey, he's still the strategist.
Shows no actual improvement. What the writers want to do with Jean is actively fighting against what they think the audience wants. That's really the gist of it. Jean is damaged goods, even more than Yang. At least with Yang, they eased into her and discovered what kind of character she should be as they were writing her. Had they done the same with Jean, I think he'd be a lot better. I wish they did, because at face value, I relate to Jean a lot. There's a reason why so many of my lead characters have a similar hang-up. Having a family business or trade and having expectations put on you and being stressed about it as you fail to show the aptitude for the family trade is something I can personally relate to on a serious level. Having the hots for...
Yeah, that's something that I very purposely tried to move away from with Night Watch, where I do have characters with that kind of like familial hang-up, Oliver and Eliza. Very similar dynamic here. But the difference is that like Eliza is really that competent, and Oliver does have talent. He is a very talented fighter. Like he's picking this stuff up unusually fast, which is kind of scary. It's going to lead into some of the comedy later on.
A girl who is so out of your league, who is so above the nice guy routine and becoming heartbroken over that is something I relate to. Jean, if he were handled better early on, could have been my favorite character. But I can't see him as anything other than a disappointment.
Yeah.
There's something very meta in that summation. I'm Mediocrity4. Thanks for watching.
Very, very meta. Very, very meta video. Very presumptuous video. I still, I guess, relate to Jean a little bit. He's gone through... He's had a rough time of it the past few volumes. We'll leave it at that. Bit of a messy video. I was still in the middle of like moving around in this part of 2018. That's one of the reasons why my voice is so quiet in this video. Like I said, like I remember the struggles of even making this video. The scripting session took a long time. The recording session took a long time. I had to be very quiet and talk like this because I had people right next door to me who were the absolute morons and just the worst roommates I've ever had in my entire life. But anyway, next is an honest look at Pyrrha. I remember this being kind of my most, or at least my first, truly evergreen video, because Pyrrha is dead and she's not coming back, and she hasn't come back yet. She hopefully never will come back. She did get rendered in Maya thanks to the recent Justice League movie, which I still haven't watched yet, and also the Neo. Neo got to create some illusions with her, but I'm gonna put on a hat because this hair is not staying out of my eye. All right, hat's back. The only problem with this hat is that with the way my camera is, this will literally like just cover my eyes, which I kind of don't want.
This is a different kind of honest look because
Automatically way better voice quality. You can tell that I've gotten my, at the time, new setup hooked up. When did this come out? June 14th. I think all of the videos. That's right, it was Team June-iper. I did a theme. I did that thing that YouTubers who are actually competent do. Yeah, it was Team June-iper month. That's right, I completely forgot about that.
Pyrrha Nikos is a character who is no longer a part of the plot. She's dead and has been dead for over 2 whole volumes. So instead of gauging my feelings about the character to this point, I can evaluate their character in whole without the possibility of more stuff coming out down the line. Or so I hope. That makes this honest look the most complete by nature. Sure, there's also the Vital Tournament arc, but there's possibilities for more arcs like that down the line, or further exploration into the Great War and how it led to the tournament to begin with. Same can be said about Team Coffee, who has not returned since Volume 3, but very well could anytime the writers want. My honest looks at Ruby, Weiss, and Yang don't really hold up with everything that has happened in Volume 5, and the scripts for Ozpin and Jean were written primarily before that volume concluded. Even my honest look at Blake, one that has only been further validated by Volume 5, still feels like it's missing something since I wasn't able to address how the Menagerie arc ultimately panned out. Pyrrha Nikos is an odd fixture in Ruby. For the entirety of her life in the show, Team June-iper was strangely disconnected from the main characters. Sure, Ruby was always marketed as an ensemble series, but that ensemble was meant to only extend to the 4 members of the titular team. Until Volume 4, after Pyrrha's
titular
death,
is a fun
June-iper
word.
had their own arcs and own... I refuse to say the word adventures that didn't tie in with the wider narrative that Team Ruby got wrapped up in. Pyrrha is contradictory in that she is a boring, yet fascinating character.
Yes.
Pyrrha first and foremost was a unique foil to Jean. Where he was bumbling, weak, dumb, and in over his head, Pyrrha was graceful, strong, and almost too good for the school. I've made this complaint before. If this is all the Grimm are capable of, if this is as big and strong as they get, then why do any of these kids need to go to the school? This complaint doesn't extend to Pyrrha because I think there's a point to be made. As strong as Ruby...
Do I want to do this rant? Do I want to do this rant, or do I want to save this for its own video? Because I could easily do this for its own video. Magic schools are bullshit. I kind of hate them. This stems a lot from my experience with Harry Potter, but every time I see a school setting in an anime or like especially a fantasy, I hate it more and more every time I see a new iteration of it. Because let's just do the math. I got a notepad and a pen here. Let's do the math. All right. So we know in the Vital Festival tournament, in the finale, there was Mercury, Yang, Pyrrha, Penny, Sun, and 3 other people. So 8 people total. So that's how many teams were being represented in the Vital Festival finale. Just the finale. So each of them had to go through 2 other rounds. So there's 128 people in the Vital Festival tournament alone. Now we know that it is spread out across at least 2 years and 4 schools. 128 huntsmen per 2 years. 80 years of schools. That means in the 80 years of these schools' existence, there is at least 5,120 people. There have been over 5,000 huntsmen. This is just in the Vital Festival tournament alone. And yet, the weight of the world, this omnipotent threat that is Salem, has to be solved by like 12 people and their dog. And this is every magic school. Harry Potter, you have hundreds of people. In each school, you have at least 3 different schools. Hundreds of people each. Each year. Thousands upon thousands and thousands of wizards. How the fuck do they keep that a secret? How do they keep the Harry Potter schools a secret? And how come it's like 7 people that have to fight Voldemort and his evil army? There's, of course, you could rationalize it. You could explain it away. You know, the huntsmen are a mercenary and constantly being hunted down by Grimm and Salem and her followers, yada, yada, yada. But just logistically speaking, it's kind of absurd that the weight of the world is on so few people. On top of that, in order to get into these Huntsman Academies, if you don't cheat the way John did, you have to already show competency in combat. The kind of competency in combat that we don't see a lot of professional huntsmen do in the show. Like, look at the professional huntsmen outside of the main cast. You have Dee and Dudley from Volume 6, the nameless dude who got done in by the new Clavi in Volume 4. Those are your professional huntsmen. Yeah, I don't like magic schools. I don't like secret worlds. There's a lot of problems I have with it, and if I'm going to properly articulate my thoughts, I'm going to have to actually, like, really script out a video and really do the math on some stuff. Just to highlight how much of a problem I have with these cliches.
Weiss, Blake, Yang, Nora, and Ren are, Pyrrha is several leagues above them. Her fight with Cinder shows she's probably on par with your average huntsman already. So why bother with the school? Well, she's there for a different reason. Motive is a vital element for any character, and hers can be a little bit murky. Ruby wants to be a huntress. She wants to do the right thing, become a hero like the ones in her books. Jean wants to live up to his family legacy. Weiss wants to salvage her family legacy and undo the damage her father has done. Blake wants to fight for equality. Yang wants adventures and wants to find answers. Other than Ruby and Jean, none of these motivations require going to a Huntsman Academy. But Pyrrha isn't there to fight. She's not there to learn what it takes to be...
That's another thing. Like, on top of, like, just the logistical problems, when you have a magical school, then you have to start explaining everyone's powers, everyone's backstory, why everyone is there, and then you turn into kind of a Planet of Hats situation where, you know, like in Harry Potter, like, oh, all these people are going to wizarding school because their parents did. Okay, why did their parents go to wizarding school? Because their parents did. And then it just keeps going on and on from there. And it makes the characters more boring, and it makes the stakes more nonsensical. Because I think I might even say it in this video, but like, Volume 3, when all the Grimm and all the White Fang people were attacking, all these things that we know that these students have already fought before because they've all had to go through the initiation, the same initiation that Team Ruby and Team June-iper went through. And yet, the only teams we see fight are Team Ruby, June-iper, Sun, Auburn, Funky, Coffee, and we also see Cardin fight at one point, so we can assume that Team Cardinal fought as well. 7 teams out of 12 at least. Like there's 8 teams just in the finals. No, where was Penny's team? Where was the other 3 people? They were still there, presumably. Where was their teams? We don't know. Obviously, they're not going to show everything. But if you're not going to show everything, give us something. The only something that we had was Cardin. Everyone else, wearing their uniforms, all just ran like any other civilians.
be a huntress, she's there for people. She's there to build the kind of relationships her life never allowed.
And thanks to you, I've made friendships that will last a lifetime.
She's portrayed like an Olympic athlete, someone who has trained their entire life for sport and competition, but her status as a celebrity has put her on a pedestal. She has had difficulties building meaningful relationships. All her past relationships are probably more like her and Weiss in Volume 1. Sure, Weiss is also a pseudo-celebrity and can relate to Pyrrha on that level and is probably up to her speed, but Weiss just wants to manipulate her. She wants to use Pyrrha like a sword to form the most powerful team in the school.
I like
That's
that.
not
I
what
like that, by the
Pyrrha
way.
wants. She doesn't want to be the best. She already is, and it's caused her nothing but grief.
When you're placed on a pedestal like that for so long, you become separated from the...
It's one of the reasons why Ruby fanfiction is so popular, is because they give us they give us all these delicious little nuggets of characterization, and then they don't do anything with them. Like, Pyrrha and Weiss seem to have some kind of history, some kind of dynamic when Pyrrha is first introduced. They know each other, and Weiss has the whole thing where she's trying to manipulate Pyrrha. But then they don't interact after that. The only times I can remember them interacting was like when Ruby, Weiss, and Pyrrha saw Jean fight the Ursa, and then like when they're eating ramen, the food fight. But even then, they don't have any interplay in those scenes, and it's just like I would want to explore that more. That's just my writing sensibilities, though.
The people that put you there.
Similar to Saitama from One Punch Man. What she wants is Jean, someone who treats her like a normal human person.
I was
from
very
one
clearly
second.
writing.
There's no
That's the
precedent
second video in
for
a
this.
row.
Some people are more focused on what people do and how well they do it. Others are...
Hold on, I really want to pause on that, maybe because it's golden. But this is the second video in a row where I've made a One Punch Man reference. You can tell it was fresh in my head. Pulls out of Paris Accords, tricks free market into fixing climate change. A little bit, yeah. We did pull out of the Paris Climate Accords, and we did actually end up lowering our emissions at an even quicker rate than when we were in the Paris Climate Accords. For like a year, we did that. The smoke ended up blowing over, and then nothing happened. And there's a lot of. Saw an article today about how turns out paper straws are toxic and worse for the environment than plastic straws. And if that doesn't just succinctly summarize the entire climate change the problem, then I don't know what does.
People do and how well they do it. Others are...
Hey kid, want some free college? Nope.
Focused on how trustworthy someone is.
There's no
Pyrrha
such thing as
definitely
free.
falls in the latter.
Someone pays.
Throughout the first 3 volumes, she goes through the clearest arc and the only one that has any kind of conclusion. She puts the wants of others ahead of herself. Her personality borders on autism, and that's not an insult. In fact, I wish it was a little more intentional to make Pyrrha like a gladiator.
Again, little nuggets.
Like Ben Affleck from that one movie a while ago, but that doesn't
that
seem
I
to be
never
the
saw,
case.
but
She
was
wants
kind of
Jean to
popular
become
for
a great leader and takes it upon herself to train
that
him.
time.
This is mostly due to admiration. It's really no skin off Pyrrha's bones. She's strong enough to take on an ordinary team single-handedly. She'd likely do fine with or without his leadership. She submits to his authority, and luckily for the whole team, by Volume 2, he's the kind of leader who's fine delegating authority and letting his team decide stuff.
Ren and Nora wanted to shadow the sheriff of a nearby village.
We set out tomorrow.
I don't
Good.
think being a great fighter
Lot
is
of
the same as being
cool
a
little
great
nuggets.
leader. I don't think Jean is either one of those, but it's clear that's what they were going for. Jean is the one who makes the plan, and Pyrrha willingly becomes his sword. And then what's left of her literally becomes part of his sword and shield after she dies. Pyrrha doesn't have much of a will of her own.
Symbolism
She's
is
so
pretty
enthralled
on
with
the nose there.
relationships she's managed to build at Beacon, not to mention so infatuated with Jean that she never carves out her own identity. This is what makes it...
I remember I said this in one of my One Piece videos. That, like, I really like that dynamic, and I wish more anime used it. Because that's how it is in real life. You don't see, as fucking awesome as it would be, you don't see Donald Trump or Joe Biden getting airdropped behind enemy lines in, like, fucking Ukraine or whatever, killing Russian goons with their bare hands. No, you see them delegating authority to their generals, who then delegate it to the various sergeants and stuff, who then delegate it to the grunts. But that's something I really liked about Spandam and Rob Lucci in the Ennis Lobby arc, where Spandam is the main villain. He's the guy behind the desk. He's the one calling all the shots. He's the one who really wants Nico Robin. He's the one who set everything in motion. But Rob Lucci is the muscle. And Rob Lucci is so dangerous in Ennis Lobby because he follows orders. When Spandam tells him to kill Luffy, he goes to kill Luffy.
So easy for Osmond to manipulate, or convince her to become the Fall Maiden. The Maiden storyline has fallen under fire recently. Many of my cohorts have lambasted the entire idea. I'll admit it's been mishandled, but I'm not averse to the idea, and I like how it was handled in Volume 3. It gave Pyrrha's arc way more gravitas than it would if the Maidens never existed. I don't talk about inspirations for the series for a number of reasons. I feel Ruby is hollow with its reference to classic literature. For instance, why Schnee is supposed to be like Snow White, but outside of the name, there's no connection. And since Remnant isn't Earth, there's nothing dramatic about the reference.
But still more connection than the live-action movie? God, Disney sucks right now.
Either. It's just meaningless and doesn't amount to anything. Except in the case of Pyrrha. She's a reference to Achilles, the hero of the Iliad. She's seen as invincible, but she's not. Her weapon and outfit are of decisively Hellenistic style, her name reference to fire and victory, but there's also the idea of Pyrrhic victory, victory at great cost. I made a pretty outrageous claim that Pyrrha is a Mary Sue. I was working with an inaccurate definition and what people generally think of as a Mary Sue. Overpowered, faultless, admired, these are all traits people hurl as if they're insults, but a Mary Sue isn't a character, it's a crutch. But with the definition I used in that video, I stand by what I said. People expect a character to die somewhere down the line to raise the stakes, and there was no way Rooster Teeth could raise the stakes that high after the abysmal Volume 2 finale without taking the most powerful character in the school and ending her life. Pyrrha's death works on nearly every conceivable level. It's a large reason why Volume 3 is considered by many to be the best volume, even though, for my money, I prefer Volume 4. Even so, Volume 3
and I
had
also
the best
prefer
finale
Volume 6
of the show.
and
It's one of the best episodes in the series, and one of the best finales I've seen in recent memory. First, there's the talk about destiny, which I alluded to in my previous video. The last days of her life are spent internally struggling over her destiny. Like Spider-Man, she's forced to choose between being the warrior and being the friend. Does she become the Fall Maiden, save the world, and lead the Illuminati to victory at the potential cost of her individuality, personality, and more importantly, the friendship she's tried so hard to achieve? Or does she...
So what I'm saying is that this was a canon event. You don't have to watch a movie to understand the memes. I still have no interest in watching Across the Spider-Verse, by the way. I really just hate everything about the multiverse premise, especially as it pertains to Spider-Man.
Reject the Maiden power, stay with Team June-iper, and fight on their terms. Either way, she's a sword, but is it going to be Osmond or Jean that benefits? Jean doesn't realize this when he tells Pyrrha not to hold back. He tells her not to let anything stand between her and destiny without even realizing that he's what's in her way. Pyrrha pushes him away and chooses Osmond after this. That way,
as my bro High Powered is always fond of saying, he said the right thing, but he didn't say the right thing.
There's still a chance she can be with Jean, have her cake and eat it too, or there's the real possibility that it won't work at all and they're wasting their time. Then there's her interplay with Cinder. Cinder also believes in destiny, but takes what she believes is her destiny by force. She uses others the same way Osmond does. Osmond's plan fails and Cinder becomes the Fall Maiden, but Pyrrha
this is a really good video.
Push Jean away and fight anyway. Either she beats Cinder and
like I said, this might be one of my best videos
of her self-imposed burdens, or she dies, relieving her of destiny altogether. and she wins at the cost of her life. If she never went into the tower with Osmond and Jean, Ruby and Weiss would have never gone back for her. If she didn't push Jean away, he wouldn't have called Weiss for help. If that didn't happen, Ruby wouldn't have ran up Beacon Tower. Ruby wouldn't have witnessed Spear's death, which triggered her own powers, resulting in Cinder getting weaker, the dragon freezing, and Veil being safe for the moment. The scene also works outside of the writing. The animation is great, as is the accompanying score and cinematography. There's good reason why this scene is still stuck in people's minds 16 episodes, 4 character shorts, and over 2 seasons of Chibi later. You can argue the merits of good.
It's still there. Like, this is... No, it's been over 5 years since I've made... Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. It's been 5 years since I made this video. And it's still one of my best videos, and that moment with Pyrrha dying is still one of the most provocative images in the entire show. It's still something that people... I see people draw fan art of occasionally. Like, that's how you know that a show has really stuck around, and that a moment has really stuck around, is if people are referencing it and drawing art of it and making memes of it, you know, over half a decade later.
Good writing all you want, but there's only 2 questions that need to be asked in a review. What's it trying to do, and is it working? Figuring the hows and whys is next level analysis. When Pyrrha died, I had this feeling of contentment. I didn't care much for the character. I saw her death as a good thing for the story that would influence character growth. The only way they can ruin that is to bring her back. And judging by fan reactions, it worked on all those levels for a wide variety of people. Hell, even Fatman Falling made a video saying this is a good scene. And if something works on that level, I have no ground to stand on.
I definitely
It's
fell
not
away
like
from
trying to make a toy like
the
failing so hard that when you give her a
crew.
dramatically sad death, the audience bursts into applause. Ahem. Wow, this has turned way more positive than I...
That actually happened. I saw Solo probably about a month before I made this video, because that movie came out. That movie came out like March 2018, I think. I saw it after it had been out for a while. I saw it certainly around the same time I was making this video. When the Fembot chick died, a couple people in the audience clapped. That really happened.
I predicted. My critic side is trying to find a negative. Jen Brown isn't that good of a voice actor and struggles to emote in her scenes sometimes.
I'm not quite sure. I was planning on letting the chips fall where they may. I'm sure our leader knows exactly what he's doing.
None of it makes sense. This isn't how things were supposed to happen.
I guess for the most part, she's just kind of boring and flat. Her death retroactively made her interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about the whole I have no friends because they thought I was too unapproachable thing. It rubbed me the wrong way, but it's still a better bit of characterization than anything they did with Jean in the first 2 volumes. So yeah, for all the idiots who think I hate everything about Ruby, there are some things I genuinely like about the show. The best part about Pyrrha is that this is definitive. I'll probably never get a chance to talk about her again. There's no way they can screw this up.
Not so
without making the
comprehensively.
kind of decision that would ruin the show for everybody forever. Can't say that about the next video. Join me next time for the 2-for-1 Ren and Nora combo pack honest look to round out June-iper month. I'm Mediocrity4.
I'm really interested in this because this is pre-volume 8. So a lot of my opinion on Ren and Nora has changed because of volume 7 and 8. So let's jump into this.
A key component in any comedy duo is the straight man. Without someone who is at least a little serious, screwball comedy will be obnoxious. Costello needs Abbott, the Three Stooges needed Larry, and more importantly the never-ending line of employers, and Nora needs Ren. Nora Valkyrie and Lai Ren have a strange introduction compared to the other characters. Ruby is
If you know,
introduced
you
in a
know.
stylized hero sequence. Weiss is introduced in a more cerebral action scene, or as a foil to Ruby, depending on if you count the trailers. Jean is introduced as he vomits, etc., etc. Nora and Ren are introduced as a comedy duo.
I don't think sloths make a lot of noise.
Nora has a manic energy more akin to a Looney Tunes character. Ren seems constantly exhausted trying to keep up with her because of some history they share. This is really their only dynamic throughout the first 3 volumes. Nora says or
Yeah.
does something crazy.
Yep.
Aw,
Eh.
it's broken.
Ren reacts with a hint of frustration.
Nora? Please. Don't ever do that again.
For side characters, this is really good. They
A little
ultimately
bit,
just
couple
exist
missing
to
ghost
fill out the
frames.
B-team. Even when the actual situation makes no sense and leaves you scratching your head, it still serves to show why these one-note characters add a great diversity of personality to the cast. But they couldn't leave well enough alone, could they? Now, I'm on record as really liking Volume 4. I think it's the most solid volume with the best character arcs, one of the best fight scenes, appropriately proportioned stakes, great character moments, and just an overall solidly told story. And even though I love
So
what
long
they
as
did
you
with Ren and
ignore the
Valkyrie
Blake
as a
stuff.
whole, there are some issues. Now, for some reason I don't talk about voice actors enough on this channel. I have a really good ear for it, but most of my videos are focused on characterization and how that affects the story, or vice versa. But this is the first honest look where I'm covering 2 characters who have had drastic changes in that department. Most obviously Ren. Ren was originally voiced by Monty Oum, the show's creator, director, animator, and writer. I say that as if anyone clicking on this video doesn't know who Monty is. Monty passed away
Yeah.
while in the middle of Volume 3's production. He was then replaced by...
I do that a lot.
It's...
I do that a lot in my
He
books
does
too.
a better job. It's like comparing the
Like it's a stylistic flourish that I like how I will occasionally just spell out a character's full name over and over again. Like, I am Eliza Alcius. I am Oliver Turner. Yada yada yada. Oliver Turner, son of Daphne Turner. And I can see it getting obnoxious, but I'm being purposefully annoying, especially when it comes to Eliza because she's just full of herself. Anyway.
Batman to the Christian Bale Batman. Christian Bale seems way better in some parts, but way worse in others. Michael Keaton is more consistently good, but Christian Bale is given way more to work with. He has to portray so much emotion.
Ooh, I forgot to resize that.
Was always just silently brooding. Same deal with Ren. Neith is sometimes better and sometimes worse than Monty, but he's also given way more to work with. Ever since the start.
Yeah, it's not fair to compare the two.
Shut up. In the first 2 episodes of Volume 3 alone, Ren has about...
Like, if we had a clip or something of Monty saying some of the lines from Volume 3 or 4, then we could, like, do a side-by-side comparison of them. But even then, it's not fair because, you know, if we had that side-by-side comparison, we'd have Monty with 3 years of experience voicing Ren, and Neith with less than 1 year experience voicing Ren. So I don't like the whole debate stuff. Even in this video, I'm not even really addressing the debate itself or trying to come up with anything definitive. But that's there's an infinite amount of context for any number of things.
About as many lines as they did in the prior 2 volumes combined. I don't know if this was setting up for him taking center stage in Volume 4 or trying to get the audience on board with this new Ren, or both. Probably both. The point is,
probably
it's
both.
Different, and oftentimes it's different in a bad way. But that's not because of the performance. It's not about him having more lines. It's about the lines he's given. More on that in a bit. Nora didn't change voice actors, but she has the same problem as Ruby in that the voice is such a departure of the actor's normal speaking voice.
Hello, I'm Samantha Ireland, and I play CT on Red vs. Blue, and this is the Rooster Teeth recap. Signal, like a distress signal. A secret signal so we can find each other in the forest. They're birds! Cracked it!
And it's hard to keep consistent. Dana Carvey explained this problem some actors have when he was describing his Bush impression. In the late 80s, early 90s, his impression was spot on. By 1996, it had become an impression of the original impression. And I can't count how many actors fall into the same trap. Even Academy Award-winning actors fall into this trap. But it's not how they say it, it's what they say that defines them. Man, I'm really tapping the well on these Batman references. They were brought together with tragedy. For Ren, it was the end of his world. For Nora, it was the start of hers.
You could probably
And
write a
a
whole
lot of
thesis
things
about
remain to
how
stay. It is a bit
voice
hard to
actors
believe because
change
the
over
same
time,
exact grim is still
just as they
alive,
get more
let
comfortable with
alone
their
that
characters
the
or
writer
whatever.
can bring it down. But I am more than willing to let it slide if it means punching up the dramatic closure. My main issue is that Ren is somehow not the most important character in the series with this power. Why was his semblance only now revealed? I can think of a few instances where that power could have been a lot more useful. I love how Ren always saw Nora as someone he needed to protect, but through that encounter, he sees her as an equal. He gets closure for his family's death and is able to pursue a relationship with her. I don't think that's more than useful, but that's fine the way it is. And then Volume 5 had to go and screw everything up. Ren
And
and
then
Nora
Volume 8
become
had to screw
antagonist of
that
themselves in
specific
Volume
thing
5.
up.
Every line out of Nora is dumb, and Ren is somehow even dumber. The writers use Ren to actively destroy every bit of dramatic goodwill Volume 4 had garnered. Semblances being tied to personalities and personal growth only getting stronger as the characters grow as people? Forget that, there's no connection. Why should the writers put thought into giving people semblances that mean something to the themes and characterization? And there's no excuse for the scene. What is show don't tell? Why do the writers constantly say, well, we're only now getting into the story we want to tell? They had 5 whole volumes to give the characters arcs to actually show them really grow, and the only one who actually does is Weiss and also Jean if you're insane. There should never,
Yeah.
ever in any kind of visual medium ever be a scene where you have to have all the characters sit around and have one character tell the audience directly to their face, guys, you've totes legit grown and developed, trust me on this. And it's made so much worse that the character saying this garbage is the one who was originally characterized as being quiet.
Are you hurt?
Yeah, Ren is the worst person to have say that regardless. That should have been an Ozpin line. If you're gonna have a character say it, have the fucking teacher say it. No, the person who actually would have watched them grow and develop, had, especially with Ruby, he would have had his eyes on Ruby for, since fucking birth.
No, I just remember you being more of the quiet one.
Shut up, Weiss. There's nothing else to really say about this pair. They screwed up
Yeah.
so much. They got rid of the comedy duo angle and didn't replace it with anything. They constantly
They
give Ren and
kinda
Nora some
did
of the
later.
worst lines in the series. The writers
They
are
definitely
so
did in
upset
Volume
that
7.
They can't even do the romance right. Literally no sane person is going to hate these two characters getting together, so why, after all this teasing in Volume 4, do you do nothing to capitalize on it? I don't even think they have dialogue together in Volume 5. They broke the unbreakable, and it would be better for the show to just leave them behind in Mistral. I'm Mediocrity4. Thanks for watching.
Oh, it would have been so much better if they did. I'm sorry, dude. Dude, what the heck? I don't know if you'll end up watching this, but I'm sorry they had to do this to you, my man. In case you're not familiar with the Ruby podcast, Dude What the Heck is one of my co-hosts, and he was super into Renora, and he got super fucking pissed when they ended up not fucking being together. And the reason they chose not to be together was really fucking dumb. So let's do this video. I actually talked about the same kind of point when we were going back through the Pyrrha video. This is the missing piece of June-iper's arc. This is a video I came up with while I was making the Pyrrha video. I decided when I had this idea for the video, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put Ren and Nora together because I kind of have to, and then I'm going to have this fill out the release schedule for June. That way I can have a video every week of June 2018. I'm going to just let the video speak for itself because if I remember correctly, this video actually hits on a really cool, interesting point of Ruby that also kind of explains why the fan content is so much better than the show proper.
And send off to June-iper month, where I did honest looks for the 4 members of Team June-iper. And there's one thing I wanted to address in my honest look at Pyrrha, but cut for time. There's a missing
Did I
piece
cut it
in
for
her
time?
arc. The
I guess I
biggest
did.
issue I have with June-iper
I might
is
have had
that
it
I
written
felt
down before.
disconnected from Team Ruby. This is why the 4 hellish weeks of the Jean arc were so insufferable. The show is called Ruby. The trailers were focused on the individual members of the titular team. They're the reason anyone ever started watching. So then why, aside from Jean being a self-insert, did they take away from that so early on? It would be different if the show gave us a reason to care before this. It would also be different if they gave Team Ruby something to do before this. Did neither, which is why the bully arc would have still sucked even if it wasn't cliched, which it is. This is why in my Ruby Volume 1 video I suggested thematically tying Jean's arc with Blake's. So let's
That's
talk about
right.
Ruby
That was
and
my big
Pyrrha.
thing. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Copyright. Ooh. Milk and... I forgot that's the ship name.
Ruby and Pyrrha are both prodigies.
But no, that musical interlude is a reference to my shipping videos. Valentine's Day was coming out. The next video in this playlist is the 3rd Valentine's Day special, which is when I stopped doing the musical interludes, even though they were my favorite things to come up with and make. But YouTube's copyright system has to be just so restrictive. But yeah, Kiss from a Rose is the perfect song. At least the perfect song to use in that context.
Pyrrha is a multi-tournament champion. Ruby got moved ahead 2 years. They both have a strong connection to Jean. Ruby is probably his best friend, and Pyrrha has romantic
there's
feelings
no
for
more
him.
background
They're
music
both
in this
selected
video.
by Ozpin for daunting tasks. Ruby is the key to Salem's defeat, and Pyrrha is selected to be the
Possibly.
lead. They both have a
Yeah.
red theme, and they both have worldviews that will have them gladly die in the line of duty. So
Yep.
what interactions do they have? A scene where Pyrrha explains her semblance, a scene where Pyrrha pays for lunch, and a scene where Ruby puts more pressure on Pyrrha to win. Considering that Volume 3 climaxes with both of these characters potentially throwing their lives away to save the city, one of them dying and the other one seeing it, thus triggering her own innate abilities, I feel this connection has far too much wasted potential. So sometime, preferably in Volume 2, there should have been a scene where they actually talk things out. It could have even been at the dance, which already serves as a realization for both of their characterizations.
Well, you can't spend your entire life on the battlefield.
Yeah.
You become
So
separated
much,
from the
like,
people
they
that
were
put you
so
there in the
close.
first place.
They were
How
so
about
close
things
to
you
something,
want
like,
on the hotline?
really fucking good.
First person
And then they
to
just
Pyrrha
didn't
at
do
the dance.
anything
They
with
both
it.
came alone. They can bond over this. Pyrrha has been placed on a pedestal, and Ruby is the youngest person there. Ruby should be the one Pyrrha confides in about Jean. Ruby should play a more active role in bringing them together, sort of like Nora does. Having them bond over their positions, their isolations, and their relationship with Jean will make Pyrrha's death all the more tragic.
And thanks to you, I've made friendships that will last a lifetime.
This is
I
one of
like
the
that
friendships
line.
Pyrrha should be talking
That's
about.
a
This
good
is another
line.
thing she sacrificed
And
to
again,
do
like,
what she
it
thought was right. And that
should be
idea should
referencing
haunt
Ruby.
because
You know,
she's
the title of the
leading
show.
Salem's team down the same path. It's literally a missing piece of the puzzle. I wouldn't be surprised if this was something left on the cutting room floor, Batman Forever style, but it's more likely the writers didn't even bother with it. Imagine how much stronger the scene would be.
For added context for the 3 people watching this that don't know, Batman Forever's director's cut is a good movie, and its theatrical cut is not. Because for whatever reason, the theatrical cut decided to cut the denouement of the entire story, which was Bruce Wayne finding the diary of Thomas Wayne and finding out that Thomas Wayne wanted to stay in that night, and so did Martha. It was Bruce that encouraged them or pestered them until they took him out to the movies, I think it was, in that universe.
If we had seen a connection between Ruby and Pyrrha and were allowed to digest how inherently similar these pathways are. It would also be a great way to add some much needed dread in the otherwise toothless story. Pyrrha's death was effective because she was the strongest student, but she's just that, a student. Months of planning and all Cinder has to show for it is a single dead student, a shut down school, and some more magical powers. That's not even considering the hentai level ass pounding the villains took in Volume 5, when there are only
I will not
6
apologize for that
students,
imagery.
civilians, and a single huntsman.
Ah, I brought it back. A bit so good I used it twice.
The implication was that every single huntsman in history dies on the battlefield.
You want to be a hero? Then
Ooh,
play the
bad
part
audio
like
balancing.
any other huntsman in history. Fighting and dancing aren't so different. One wrong move on the ballroom merely leads to a swollen foot.
Or a twisted ankle.
That dread would have stayed all the while longer had Ruby and Pyrrha gotten...
By the way, the whole idea of like splicing two different scenes together to really emphasize how they reflect each other and bounce back and how it all paints the thematic theme, but I repeat myself, is a trick I actually do a lot in my own writing, where I will repeat something I've already said, but in a different context and surrounded by other like things that are repeated. Like I'll take a bit from this scene and a bit from this scene. Like I'll take a bit from scene 1 and a bit from scene 2, and then in scene 3 I'll put them right next to each other to show my hand, basically, and I show my work. I first experimented with that with my Ruby fanfiction, actually. In fact, I actually used those two scenes in one of the chapters for Ruby on War. I called back to both of those scenes at the same time.
More screen time together. I'm Mediocrity4. Thanks for watching.
This is the third Valentine. Alright, now, we're not doing the Valentine's Day special. So, I've been recording for a little over an hour. I think that's good for one video. But... So yeah, I think that's good for one video.